Today's lesson is vultures, nature's incredible cleaning crew. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And I'm Helen.
And today we're going to talk about birds. And a lot of people, of course, like birds. They like bird watching. And some people, though, don't really like vultures because we kind of associate them with death. Vultures come when someone dies. So if we see vultures in the sky, we know that there's a body around somewhere.
Yeah, and they're not really nice to look at either. They're not cute. They're big and they usually have bald heads, or at least that's how I imagine them if I don't see one right in front of me. And they are also stooped, like they have their shoulders to the front in a very strange posture. So they don't strike me as being very beautiful, elegant, or cute birds. They do remind me of death, of horror movies, of very depressing scenes. But as we will learn in this article, vultures aren't all that bad. Vultures are actually important for us.
Yep, they are worthy of praise, just like eagles or hawks or condors or whatever. So we're going to be talking about vultures in today's lesson. Again, they are an incredible cleaning crew in nature. So let's begin by listening to the first part of our lesson, and we'll be right back.
Vultures, nature's incredible cleaning crew. Most people don't regard vultures as beautiful birds. As scavengers, they primarily eat the dead bodies of other animals, and so they generally make people think of death and disease. However, vultures are actually extremely important for an ecosystem.
大家好，我们来介绍标题中的形容词 incredible。它的意思是惊人的，或是不可思议的，令人难以置信的。例如 The acrobat performed several incredible stunts. 那位杂技演员表演了几招惊人的特技。又或者说 The weightlifter was capable of incredible displays of strength. 那位举重选手能展现出惊人的力量。另外补充这个字的副词 incredibly. I-N-C-R-E-D-I-B-L-Y incredibly. 它的意思是非常的、很、极为，也可以是难以置信的。举例来说 The lake water is incredibly cold, so I doubt Matt would want to swim in it. 湖水非常的冰冷，所以我怀疑 Matt 会想在这里面游泳。再举一个例子 The decision you made was incredibly brave. 你所做的决定极为勇敢。
So the title of today's lesson is Vultures, Nature's Incredible Cleaning Crew. And we're going to learn in what sense vultures are nature's cleaning crew and why they're so incredible at doing this. Incredible means, in this context, amazing. So it's not necessarily something that you can't believe, something that's incredible, that you can't believe it. It just means amazing, very impressive. They're very impressive and amazing at cleaning. So in the first sentence, it says, most people don't regard vultures as beautiful birds. Now, the phrase regard as simply means consider or think of. You can regard A as B, meaning you see A as B. I can say, I regard Janine as a person I trust very much.
Right, so most people don't consider vultures as beautiful birds. Yes, indeed, we probably think of them like the way you described. They're kind of bald, stooped over, etc., and not particularly beautiful. And most people see them that way. As scavengers, they primarily eat the dead bodies of other animals, and so they generally make people think of death and disease. That's what they do. They mostly eat dead bodies. They don't go after live animals and kill them and then eat them. They eat the bodies of animals that are already dead. And so when we have that description of them, most people think of them in terms of death and disease. So like I said, if we see vultures circling in the sky, we know there's probably some dead animal nearby.
Yes. Now, however, vultures are actually extremely important for an ecosystem. So even though they have this negative image in our minds, they also are very important for an ecosystem. An ecosystem includes all the plants and animals in a particular area. So you can talk about an ecosystem in your country, and that would mean all of the plants and animals in your country or in that particular part of your country. And vultures are very important to an ecosystem because they will clean all of the things that would damage that ecosystem.
Right, and again, the ecosystem is just all these organisms that live in a certain area and how they interact with each other and how they influence each other. And indeed, we do need some kinds of birds like this to clean up all the messy dead animals around. Otherwise, they're going to be problematic. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's continue now to the second part and continue to talk about vultures and the role they play.
Vultures play a critical role in protecting other animals, including humans, from illness. This is because they are able to efficiently dispose of dead bodies that could contaminate water sources and spread diseases like cholera, anthrax, and rabies. Vultures' highly acidic stomach acid enables them to digest meat and waste filled with harmful bacteria that would make most animals sick. As a result, their strong stomachs are capable of removing dangerous pathogens from an ecosystem in a natural and effective manner.
第二部分我们看到形容词 critical， 意思是极重要的、关键的或是批评的。例如 Janice skipped a critical ingredient in the recipe and the dish was ruined. Janice 省略了食谱中一项重要的食材，所以整道菜都毁了。或是 In the writer's book, she takes a critical look at the state of education. 那名作家在他的书中用批评的观点来看教育现况。另外补充这个字的动词 criticize, C-R-I-T-I-C-I-Z-E, criticize. 它有批评、批判或是评论的意思。举例来说 The coach criticized his players for being very lazy recently. 那位教练批评他的球员最近很懒散。又或者说 The reporter criticized the government for its lack of action during the crisis. 那名记者批评政府在危机期间缺乏行动。下一个我们看到动词 digest， 它的意思是消化，也可以是理解或是领悟资讯。例如 Let's take a walk together to help us digest dinner. 让我们一起去散个步，帮助消化晚餐。又或者说 Many elderly people prefer soft foods as they are easier to chew and digest. 许多老人家比较喜欢软的食物，因为比较容易咀嚼和消化。另外，这个字加上 ion 就会变成名词 digestion， 它的意思是消化或是理解。举例来说 To aid with digestion, Sally likes to drink some tea after her meal. 为了帮助消化 Sally 喜欢在饭后喝一点茶。或是 Eating too quickly can lead to poor digestion and other health problems. 吃太快可能会导致消化不良和其他健康问题。
So, how are vultures helpful for an ecosystem? Well, for one thing, vultures play a critical role in protecting other animals, including humans, from illness. So, vultures play a critical role. A critical role is a role that's very important. Critical means important. So, I could say that exercise is a critical factor in weight loss. Now, why are vultures important or critical in protecting other animals, including humans, from illness?
Well, I'll tell you, this is because they are able to efficiently dispose of dead bodies that could contaminate water sources and spread diseases like cholera, anthrax, and rabies. So yes, indeed, they do play a critical role in our ecology or in our ecosystem. And the reason is because they get rid of those dead bodies, okay? Sometimes animals die in the forest or other places, and something needs to happen to those bodies, otherwise they will decay and rot. And that, of course, could contaminate water sources. To contaminate something means to pollute the thing, to put poison in there so that it's no longer pure. And yes, indeed, we do have water sources. We have reservoirs and water tables under the ground. And if some of those dead bodies get into those water sources, hey, that could poison or contaminate our water supply. And if we drink that water, we could get very, very sick. And also, we might have these diseases from those dead bodies like cholera, anthrax, and rabies. And if you have those diseases, it's not going to be fun. You're probably going to be a goner.
Yes, and the phrase dispose of means to get rid of something, and vultures dispose of dead bodies by eating them. But you can also say that you need to dispose of garbage in a proper way. You can't just throw things on the ground or not recycle, not separate your plastics from your paper, from your glass things. So you need to dispose of them properly by recycling them.
Right, and again, we need to dispose of those dead bodies because they might contaminate water sources and spread those diseases and cause pollution. And furthermore, vultures' highly acidic stomach acid enables them to digest meat and waste filled with harmful bacteria that would make most animals sick. So these vultures have an acidic stomach, or a stomach that has a lot of acid in it, or a stomach that can handle a lot of acid. Acid is any kind of substance that has a pH value of less than 7, and this acid in their stomachs enable them to digest meat and waste that has harmful bacteria that would make other animals sick. So I guess if the vultures eat this kind of food that is contaminated with harmful bacteria, they're going to be okay. They're not going to get sick and die.
Yes, we all have stomach acid in our stomachs because we need the acid to break down the food we eat. But in the case of vultures, their stomach acid is even more acidic than the acidic level of the stomach acid in other animals. As a result, their strong stomachs are capable of removing dangerous pathogens from an ecosystem in a natural and effective manner. So their stomachs are capable of removing dangerous pathogens. Now, pathogens refer to bacteria or viruses that can cause diseases. And because they have very strong stomach acids, they can eat these dead animals and not get sick and digest the dead animals in their stomachs. And by doing so, they remove the dead animals and the diseases and bacteria or viruses from the environment so that people and other animals don't get sick from them.
Yeah, they sound kind of like those fish that a lot of people put in their aquariums, those fish that stay to the bottom and clean up all the junk from the other fish. They're kind of like the garbage fish, and in this particular case, we could call these the garbage birds because they clean up all the junk that nobody else wants. So again, they have those strong stomachs that can digest meat and waste that has that harmful bacteria. Of course, to digest means to change food into something that the body can use. Digestion usually takes place in the stomach and in the intestines. And yes, indeed, they're capable of removing those dangerous pathogens from the ecosystem. So they have this ability, they can do it. Therefore, they are an important part of our ecosystem. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the third and final part.
Unfortunately, many vulture species are now endangered due to habitat loss and poaching, and this decrease in the number of vultures raises the risk of disease transmission. Thankfully, conservationists have recognized how important these birds are, and some have even started breeding programs to increase endangered vulture populations. With any luck, they'll succeed in protecting vultures so that vultures can continue protecting everyone else.
最后第三部分，我们看到名词 habitat， 它的意思是动植物的栖息地或是生长地。例如 Not too many animals can live in the hot, dry desert habitat. 能够生活在干热沙漠栖息地的动物并不多。又或者说 Most types of deer like to live in forest habitats. 大部分种类的鹿喜欢生活在森林栖息地。
So we've looked at why vultures are important for the environment and how they protect the ecosystem. But there's a problem. Unfortunately, many vulture species are now endangered due to habitat loss and poaching. So a lot of vulture species are endangered. So to be endangered means that a particular animal or plant may soon no longer exist for various reasons. They may die off completely and we won't have this type of animals anymore. For a while, pandas were endangered, but now I think they're okay. We have enough pandas for the survival of the panda species. And in the case of vultures, they're endangered because of habitat loss. Habitat refers to a place that a particular animal usually lives in or a particular plant grows in. For instance, a habitat could be a desert if we're talking about certain lizards or certain small animals that typically live in deserts. A forest is also a habitat, or a lake.
Exactly. And of course, vultures come in many different varieties. We have different species of vultures. A species, of course, is some animals that can reproduce with each other. But of course, we've got different kinds of vultures, but they're endangered. They are suffering because of habitat loss and because of poaching, which is when people hunt or kill animals that they're not supposed to be. Like there's a lot of elephant poaching in Africa, for example, because they can sell the ivory for a high price. And yes, indeed, this decrease in the number of vultures raises the risk of disease transmission. Transmission just refers to when something goes from one place to another. So if, of course, you're working at a television station, you want to make sure that your programs will be transmitted to people who will receive them on their television sets. And that, of course, means the information or the thing is going from one place to another. And we don't want those diseases to move around a society. We want to stop their transmission.
That's right. Now, thankfully, conservationists have recognized how important these birds are, and some have even started breeding programs to increase endangered vulture populations. So, thankfully, a certain group of people who are conservationists have begun to recognize the importance of vultures. Now, who are these people? Conservationists are people who manage and protect a natural environment, and their goal is to prevent this environment from being damaged or destroyed. So what they're trying to do is conserve this environment, and people who do this are conservationists. So these conservationists recognize the importance of vultures, and some have even started breeding programs. Breeding refers to the process of producing young animals, and it's another non-count noun, so breeding is always breeding. You would never say breedings. And breeding programs are programs in which certain animals are encouraged to breed, to produce young babies so that this particular species won't disappear in the future.
Right, and of course we've got breeding programs for all sorts of endangered animals. And again, we've got these conservationists. Those are the people who want to protect the environment. That's related to the word conservation, which means you're protecting something. Like all of us should practice water conservation. We should not waste water and not dump our garbage into reservoirs and things like that. So indeed, those conservationists are trying to save the vultures because they are very, very important, even though most people don't think they're very cute, and certainly Korean or Japanese anime artists are not going to make cute little mascots out of vultures. They're just too homely of birds, and they're hunched over. They're not very attractive at all, so most people probably don't particularly care about vultures, but hopefully we have changed a lot of your minds here because we now can recognize their important role in the ecosystem.
Yep, and with any luck, they'll succeed in protecting vultures so that vultures can continue protecting everyone else. Here, with any luck is a phrase that you would use when you want to say that you hope a particular thing will happen in the future. So I might say, with any luck, I'll be able to find a new apartment this year if I'm trying to move and to look for an apartment. It doesn't necessarily have to do with luck. You're not necessarily saying that you need luck for something to happen. It's just a way of expressing your desire, what you hope will happen in the future.
Yeah, you could say with any luck, or hopefully they'll succeed in protecting vultures. You could say luckily if something good did happen to you. Luckily, the vultures have been saved and we don't need to worry about them anymore, but we're not quite there because they still are endangered. And so we need to help out and protect those vultures. and they'll continue to protect everyone else in the ecosystem and in the environment. And this begs the question to me, are there vultures here in Taiwan? I do like bird watching, but I don't think I've ever seen a vulture here in Taiwan. If you know, let me know, and let me know where we can see them. Okay, that brings us to the end of the explanation for today. Right now, we're going to hear some more explanation from our dear Chinese teacher, Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。我们看到课文标题它写到 Nature's incredible cleaning crew， 那这边用到 incredible， 它可以形容是惊人的、不可思议的，或是令人难以置信的。我们来补充它的字根哦。好，看到 cred 这个字根，它是指信任、相信。像我们知道 credit 这个名词呢，它就有信誉、信用的意思，所以应该不难看出 cred 这部分可以指信任、相信。好，那么再来字尾 ible 就跟 able 一样，都可以用来表达可怎么样的、能怎么样的，合在一起 credible 就可以表达可靠的、可信的或是真实的。好，那接着我们就在 credible 前面加上否定字首 in， 变成 incredible， 那就是难以置信的、不可思议的，它也可以表达出那种极好的、很棒的语义。好，那我们也补充一组有相同字根的单字 credulous 和 incredulous。 好，我们刚刚说到这个 cred 这个字根，它有信任、相信的意思嘛，那后面加上 ulous， 这是形容词字尾，表达倾向于什么什么、习惯于什么什么。那如果你总是习惯相信别人、倾向于相信别人，那就可能比较容易被骗咯。所以 credulous 它就是表达轻易相信的、容易受骗的。好，那么在 credulous 前面加上否定字首 in， 变成 incredulous， 那就表示不轻信的、怀疑的或是疑心重的。好，那接着课文第3部分有提到这个增加疾病传播的风险，文中是用名词 transmission 去表达传播、传递的意思，它的动词是 transmit。 那我们也来学习它的字首字根。好，当我们看到 mit 或是 miss 这一类的字根，就有送出、投射的意思，像 missile飞弹、导弹，那这个字其实就不难看出它的字根有投射的语义嘛。好，那我们看到在 transmit 这个字当中，它的字首 trans 表示 across， 它有跨越、横越的意思。那么字根 mit 表示 send 送出，合在一起 transmit 它就有传送啊、传达的那种意思咯。好，我们也补充几个有这一类字根的单字。第一个是 emit， 它的字首 e 表示向外、由内向外，那么 mit 表示送出、投射，合在一起 emit 就有发出、发射或是散发的意思。第二个补充的是 omit， 好，那它的字首 o 是源自于 ob， 只是因为 b 碰到 m 被同化而省略了，那么 o 在这里是做强调用。mit 它有 send 送出或者是 let go 放行、释放的意思。那我们把东西放掉，应该可以去联想到 omit 它有遗漏、省略或删除的意思咯。第3个补充的是 dismiss， 它的字首 dis 表示离开、远离，那么字根 miss 同样也有 send 或是 let go 的意思。好，我们去想说把人送走、叫人离开，这样应该可以联想到 dismiss 它有解雇或者是解散的意思咯。好，那么以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Incredible，The amount of support my soccer team gave me after my injury was incredible. Critical. Ginger knew it was critical to finish the test before time ran out. Digest. Cooked food is often easier to digest than raw food. Species. One study reported that there are around 8.7 million species living on Earth. Endangered. Polar bears are endangered due to climate change and melting ice caps. Habitat.The destruction of the forest has led to a loss of habitat for many animals. Breeding. The breeding of these rare birds requires a carefully controlled environment.
Discussion Starter starts now!
Here's our discussion starter for today. The question is, after reading the article, do you have a new take on vultures? Why or why not?
No, the article hasn't really improved my view of vultures because I had always known that they were useful for the environment, that they clean the environment, but they remain animals or birds that are not cute. They're not pretty to look at.
Well, yes, to me, the article has given me a new take on vultures, since I did probably think that they were important in the ecosystem, but I didn't really know exactly why. And the article today did sort of let us know exactly why vultures are important to the ecosystem. So even though I knew they were important before, now I know exactly why they are so important.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoy reading along with us. I am Helen.
I am Roger.
See you next time.